G'day, everybody. Thank you for taking the time out uh, and joining us for the Cybersecurity Best Practices webinar. See, this session is being recorded and all the registrants will be sent a link to the recording in the next couple of days. See, we at Crash Technology do these webinars on a regular basis, at least once a year. The main reason for these webinars are to educate both existing customers and any new prospects. Also, to make sure your team gets to look at all the technologies, any challenges which are relevant in today's markets. And we talk a little bit about do a little bit of email fish training through this. So it helps from a perspective of your IT security learning. So we try and run these at least once a year. We'll see if we can put on another one early next year uh, because this is a volatile and um, state. The market is always changing from an IT security perspective. So we will begin now. Thank you so much for joining us. Beautiful. So the presenters for us today are Dean Attard. I believe everybody has met Dean. If you're meeting him for the first time, Dean is the MD at Crash Technology. He's also the founder of the business. And myself, I'm Kulta Katra. I'm the GM at Crash Technology. See, Dean is the brains. He's the technical expert here. And he will be speaking about the technical challenges and what's happening out there. Quickly, see, this is not a sales pitch. You guys are aware who we are. Just quickly, we've been in business for over 20 years, and we look at providing the right solution for the businesses. So we cater solutions for your business, and we ensure that you are getting the most out of your IT systems. But overall, we are making sure we are covering you for any risks and helping you being compliant, and we're experts in those. The key topics for today's presentation is talking about the emerging cyber threats, what has been happening so far in 2024, and what you and your team should be watching out for. We will talk about the zero trust architecture. Now, zero trust architecture is modern cybersecurity. We'll talk about what it entails. We will also walk you guys through what advanced threat detection and responses are, what that looks like, and the different tools, techniques implemented in there to mitigate risks. The hottest topic over the last few months, few years has been AI. We will talk about the role of AI in cybersecurity, on how AI is changing threat detection. And in this instance, we'll talk about ChatGPT, which is quite a popular AI tool. So we'll talk about what ChatGPT does over there. We'll have a quick overview of that. We're talking about the threats, the challenges, comes compliance. The government has been very diligent in making sure the right or ensuring regulations are being implemented for cybersecurity, ensuring businesses are covering themselves. So we'll talk about the AES 8 compliance, and then we'll talk about best practices for IT security. As part of our emerging cyber threats, we will also talk about ransomware as a service, and we will take you through an exercise where we'll educate you on phishing attack through ransomware as a service, which will show an example of how someone's Office 365 can get encrypted through ransomware. We'll talk about that. So that will be a learning exercise today. With that, we will talk about the top cybersecurity threats. I'll pass this. Actually, the first three on these new topics. We'll be talking about AI-powered cyber attacks, deep fakes, how social engineering is using various AI tools and different technologies to manipulate users. Dean will talk about the AI-powered cyber attacks, deep fakes. He'll talk about supply chain attacks, and then I will cover some of the other vulnerabilities. And the ransomware as a service example, I'll cover that. So with that, Dean, I'm going to move on to AI-powered cyber attacks.
Good afternoon, everybody. There's a couple of other people just joining in now. I want to, obviously, as Kultar mentioned, one of the hottest topics going around at the moment is AI and how it is going to affect our businesses, how it affects people in general, and really how it's going to affect day-to-day life. A lot of the stuff in here is fairly technical, but I will try and explain it in a way that everybody can understand, because there is a lot of information that sits behind that, and what we do as a business to try and protect your business against that. Crash Technology is part of the Cybersecurity Centre, which is an Australian organisation that is continually monitoring for these type of attacks. So we pretty much get information directly out of there. They're linked into the Australian ASIO, if you want to call it.
Australian Signals Directorate and the Commissioner for Cybersecurity Council. So it's a government-based organisation which we get the updates from.
So we're updated on a very regular basis from those guys. We had an issue last week with a particular product that some of our customers use, which is a firewall product, and we were able to jump on that straight away and let our customers who were affected know. So with that, let's talk a little bit about AI and how that works. Now, there's quite a few dot points which I'll try to cover off as quickly as I can. So AI is a fantastic tool. It's being used more and more throughout business. It's really great, taking notes, converting meetings to documents, saving a lot of manpower. The issue with anything like that is, while there is the good, there is also the bad. So a lot of hackers are starting to use AI to find ways to bypass security protocols, because AI is great. I'm sure, as Kultar mentioned, ChatGPT is the big one that's going around at the moment. And as you all know, you can pretty much ask ChatGPT to do anything. So while we all use ChatGPT to put together great documents and things to assist our business, these guys are using that to look at ways to infiltrate systems. So we're pretty much sitting in a position now. We were talking about it just before with the team. I'm sure everybody has watched Terminator and knows how that movie works. Somebody put together what they thought was a great defense, and then they told it to be self-aware and to learn and to look for threats in our networks. And pretty much that's where we sit right now. I know that was a movie, but this is at the moment real life, and it's something that we're facing. So these type of AI tools can pretty much infiltrate most systems that are not aware or do not have any forms of defense. So it's really important that when we get across to you guys, hey, there's new certain tools or things of that nature, that it creates a discussion, because we know that obviously at the moment times are pretty difficult, but these things are about protecting your network, and we can monitor everything, but there are certain things that you just can't monitor. You need additional tools to be able to monitor and learn, because they need to be super quick, because in the era of the World Wide Web, by the time we go to sleep and wake up in the morning, things have changed so much. So AI can look for regular patterns inside computers. They can monitor for repetitiveness. So things that are done on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis. AI can take all that information and then be able to exploit that against anybody. And we're not only talking businesses, we're talking individuals as well. So part of AI and our approach to cybersecurity is not only our computers. Our computers now are probably the easiest thing to protect. It more comes down to individuals and what you do outside of work that is becoming a real problem. And I'll elaborate a little bit on that as we go through the presentation. So AI is probably the biggest threat that we see for the foreseeable future, because it can basically look at every component, every aspect of your business. It can learn from it. As Coulter's just popped up a new screen, is 85% global surge in AI-powered cyber attacks. So this is something that we, as a business, as an IT business, need to be aware of, and need to be making sure that we are up with all the latest trends, which we are. But we're only as good as you guys. So if we're trying to put on these type of presentations and put forward plans of attack for us, we need you guys to be as invested as we are, because some of these AI attacks will no longer just cripple businesses. They will pretty much end any type of trading. They've got ways in which they can infiltrate all types of systems. So it's really important. And as we can see by the turnout today, it's something that should be at the forefront of everybody's minds. Coulter, next tab. Okay, so deep fakes, synthetic media, and supply chain attacks. So this one is really, this is really where we would have seen a lot of activity in this area over the past few months. And as we lead up to the US election, we're going to see a lot more of these things. So I'll explain a little bit about the deep fakes and how they work, and I'm sure we've all seen them in one way or another. So I don't know if any of you have young children, but my daughter loves talking to her friends on Messenger, friends and family, and we all put on those funny faces, flowers coming down from the sky. We look like dragons, all of those kinds of things. Now, again, we use them um, in our daily life to have a laugh with our family and friends and things like that. However, a lot of that stuff is now being used in the media. You would have seen the tools by where there's a person that looks exactly like Donald Trump, talks like Donald Trump, acts like Donald Trump, um, does all of that. Joe Biden, all the same. They all look exactly the same. They talk, they act, and it's not real. It is what we call a deep fake. So somebody is manipulating that data to get people to believe that, you know, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, whoever it may be, is saying things that they're not saying. So they are using these AI tools to get across their points, their agenda. So it's really, really important that, you know, we as a group are looking out for these type of deep fakes. Again, that links into the synthetic media because it's all fake, and unfortunately, at certain times, you just don't know what to believe and what not to believe. So it's really important that as a group, we are all working together to try and stop, people getting fooled, people getting scammed, and, people's productivity in
Dean,
their businesses going backwards.
yeah, Dean, have you had any experiences recently where some form of a deep fake or there's been a fake voice? Um,
Yeah, so I'll go into a bit into a situation that I ran into um, only in the last few weeks, and I am always, whenever I'm talking about scams, in particular with banks, I am always telling people the first thing you have to do is, if you receive a call, is hang up the phone and call your bank back or your provider back. So recently this year, I was lucky enough to go overseas, and we happened to go to an African country. At which point, I used my American Express card, um, and I always had a feeling in the back of my mind that, um, you know, at some point over the next few months, somebody's going to access my card, and, they're going to put a charge on it. So that was always in the back of my mind. So, and this is how sophisticated this stuff is now. So came back from overseas, back to business. Everything was fine. And we had a family gathering on a Friday night. We went out to a local pub just for a meal. So we're sitting down having a meal, and my phone rang. Um, phone rang. Uh, they told me that they were from American Express, which American Express has called me before if there was a fraudulent charge on my credit card. So I took the phone call. It was quite loud. I couldn't hear properly. So I made my way outside. Um, and the gentleman spoke to me very professional. Good afternoon, good evening, Mr. Attard. We've seemed to find some fraudulent charges on your card. There looks like there's been in excess of $100,000 trying to be charged against your card. Have you made any of these purchases? So I was very quick to say no. And that thing in the back of my mind about being overseas, and so I instantaneously forgot about my normal process. Okay, yep, I said yeah. No, I haven't made any charges at all. He said, don't panic, Mr. Attard, calm down. I'm going to put you through to our fraud area and you can discuss with the fraud area. So I said, yep, that's fine. So got on the phone, lovely lady. She told me her name. She said she was from the fraud area. I said, yeah, that's fine. She said, oh, we can see that you've made a purchase from overseas. This is just something that's expected when you're traveling. So just bear with me and we'll reverse these charges. At this point, I said, well, hang on, how do I know you're from American Express? I started to think about it for a bit. And I asked her how can I verify that she's from American Express? So she proceeded to read me my credit card number, which I thought that's easy because anyone can get that. She then gave me my full address, my home address, which I thought was, okay, that's not everybody's going to have that. So we had a conversation backwards and forwards, and I was pretty comfortable that she was from American Express. However, I was still quite skeptical. So we had some conversations forwards and backwards, and she said, there's a few charges going to a travel agency. And I thought, okay, well, we booked all our stuff with Flight Centre, but there shouldn't be any charges with Flight Centre. So in the meantime, I've called Catherine from our accounts team, and I got her to block my card. So my card was blocked, and this lady said, listen, you've just blocked your card, like within, I'm talking 30 seconds. So she said, you've just blocked your card. I need you to unblock it so I can start reversing these charges. So she said, and I can see that you've just logged in from your phone. So because I had called Catherine had actually logged in from a PC, and it was at this point that I realised that I was being scammed. So I hung up the phone. Catherine left the credit card blocked. I ended up calling American Express, running through the process, telling them exactly what had happened. So the whole point of that story is that these guys are actually trolling social media. They knew I had gone overseas. I was a pure targeted attack for something like this. So everything that we post online, whether we do TikTok movies or, post with our friends on Facebook, all of that type of stuff is being used now against all of us. So all of this stuff is easily tracked through AI. So, they only need your name. and they can start doing research and sitting behind. So it's very important that you are not limiting your online presence, but just being wary um, of what is being put out there. And a lot of businesses have been, everybody in our businesses have received, the email, hey guys, I need an urgent present for XYZ. Now they're really easy to start picking because we're all becoming very aware of it, and we all know how to look at it. And the team at Crash are very smart in being able to see those and really get to our customers to make sure that nobody's working or giving that type of information. And a lot of our customers are being who have been made aware are a lot wiser now to those easy ones that you guys are getting that information across to us, and we were able to filter that information to make sure people aren't getting scammed. So the scams are not as easy anymore. They're getting quite sophisticated, and they're getting very hard to be able to identify on your own, like really quickly. They're getting very hard to be able to address those quickly.
Dean, on supply chain attacks, can you talk about how CrowdStrike was used? Briefly give us an idea about, like, at the end it was Windows who got affected, but yeah, just refresh people's memory on that and give us a quick overview on CrowdStrike.
Yeah, so just quickly with CrowdStrike,
Sorry. Do
it,
do people remember CrowdStrike? Can you give them? I'm not sure if it's been a few months. It's been
yep,
probably 3 months. Maybe they've
yeah,
forgotten about it. Can you give a background on, like, how it happened, who were
yep,
affected?
yep. So um, CrowdStrike is a antivirus, cyber security provider. So a lot of companies like ours, as you know, we use Sophos for a lot of our cyber protection. A lot of companies use CrowdStrike. A lot of businesses use CrowdStrike as their front line of defense. So what happened there was CrowdStrike had a vulnerability that these hackers were able to exploit. So as with CrowdStrike and many antivirus providers, they run updates on a daily basis to make sure we are as protected as possible. These hackers were able to deploy a piece of code inside one of CrowdStrike's updates. So CrowdStrike, as they normally do, deployed their updates nightly, and the next morning, a lot of computers were put into blue screen, and a lot of businesses could not work. Now, they exploited a Microsoft vulnerability. Well, not a vulnerability, it was a process inside Windows that they were able to exploit through CrowdStrike. So this is what we're talking about in particular with supply chain attacks. So there is a component of your business that's required. They find somewhere else down the line that may not be as secure as what you are, and then they're able to exploit that, knowing that it's going to get to everybody. So this was probably the biggest impact globally. I know those few days for the guys who had CrowdStrike as an application, a lot of those businesses were unable to run for that period of time till CrowdStrike were able to find what the problem was and release a patch. So supply chain attacks are becoming more and more prevalent throughout the industry.
Okay, thank you. Yes, that attack was, I think, end of June or early July this year, and it affected pretty much every airline in the world, and it affected a number of banks and a number of government organizations. So that literally crippled a lot of businesses. And it was a very small vulnerability, but the issue for that ramification was huge because it would basically have to be um, changes made before the computer goes into boot mode. So we believe that it was a supply chain attack. It hasn't been proven yet. Um, we'll talk about IoT vulnerabilities and quantum computing threats. Um, so yeah, I'll quickly cover this. IoT vulnerabilities are where we see more and more smart devices being deployed in the workplace, uh, at your homes. Um, a lot of manufacturing firms have IoT devices. It could be a temperature reader, or it could be some device which is associated with producing something, and there's not enough security out there to secure these devices. This is where there's an oversight, and we've seen a more and more risk in a denial of services attack, or there's been uh, 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 an exploit where that device has been used to get into the customer's environment. So IoT vulnerabilities is something which is a risk to critical infrastructure, and there's more and more awareness about this, but there's not enough security around it. For example, we all have um, uh, a video monitoring system which connects my home videos through the internet through an app, and there's no MFA on the app. I don't know what the security is in the back end, and depending upon if I don't have the right password security on it, anyone could get in, or if that website gets um, or that vendor gets compromised, anyone could have access through to uh, my videos surveillances. Quantum computing is pretty much breaking encryption using very sophisticated computers. Hence, there's different password guides out there, or passwords being put into password lockers. So it's not easily, encryption is not easily broken. And if it is 128-bit encryption or 256-bit encryption, that takes years and years to break. However, if there's not the right level of complexity in your password, there will be, excuse me, apologies, there will be computers which will be able to run a program and try different password combos to get into your password. So it is important to make sure your cyber defense policies and password policies are strong. We'll talk about those a bit later.
Look, can I just
Sure,
jump in for a second?
sure.
And this is fairly relevant with the Internet of Things. There's a particular case study with a casino based in Las Vegas. They had A1 security. Their networks were very secure, obviously, being a casino. And they wanted to introduce this lovely fish tank into their main entrance. They introduced this beautiful fish tank. I can't remember how much it cost, but it cost a lot. And they had monitoring on the water temperature. That had absolutely zero protection against exploits, and a firm was able to pretty much ransom that casino through the fish tank because it had web access, and there was absolutely no protection on that fish tank, and they were able to use that to infiltrate the network. So that's how sophisticated and how easy it can be to leave a loophole inside your network. Thanks, Coulter.
Absolutely, I remember that. Okay, just a few examples on the challenges out there. I just want to quickly talk about ransomware as a service. Now, ransomware as a service is not a new term. It's been around for the last five to 6 years, and it's available through the dark web. What it is a service where you can subscribe, like a Netflix plan. You can pay $30 a month to an organization on the dark web if you trust them with your money, or your Bitcoin, whatever it is, where they will target people through a certain virus, and they'll say, okay, we're going to target 20,000 people. We expect five to pay 2 Bitcoins, and as a part of your service, you will get a 10x return on it. And then they will basically create a kit and they will execute that for customers. So that's ransomware as a service. Why we need to be aware of this is from a perspective of what challenges are out there from a cybersecurity perspective. At the end of the day, if you have the right cybersecurity policies, right structure, this is something which should be covered because it is a ransomware attack. So what it means is non-technical criminals are able to deploy sophisticated ransomware attacks. Some of this can be where they've collected information from AI, but there's phishing attacks where passwords could be reset, uh, files get corrupted, backups get deleted, and then ransomware is executed by threatening people that, hey, we're going to publish your data online. So ransomware as a service, I'll go through an example a bit later, but we do have more and more research and more information coming out that, hey, there's ransomware being executed X, Y, and Z, or the AFP recently said they busted a ring across 10 countries which was using Lockbit, which was a ransomware as a service product. So this is very relevant. Next time you have a conversation around the Barbie, you can definitely talk about ransomware as a service. Um, let's talk about zero trust architecture. Dean, I'll let you give a quick overview of why we are moving away from a traditional network peripheral security, AV security model to more of a zero trust architecture. Unmute yourself, please.
Thanks, Coulter. So pretty much zero trust architecture sits by where typically when we create a network, we allow trust to all of our internal computers, all of our internal peripherals, and they are fully trusted in our network. Basically, what zero trust means is exactly that. Don't trust anybody. There's a particular show that I like to watch where they sell secondhand goods, and one of his lines is, "It's not that I don't trust you, it's just that I don't trust anybody." So we need to take that approach as best as we can inside modern networks to make sure that we are monitoring and making sure that any type of PC or peripheral that we join meets stringent policies to make sure that they can access information, whether it be from the internet or from inside our current networks. Also, for that to happen, there's a few ways in which we need to do that. One is don't trust anything, monitor all of our assets, grant the least permissions that we can to everything. And that way we're at least able to break down networks into small segments, which means for us from a IT perspective, that if we do have a breach anywhere, that we're able to segregate the networks and start looking at which components may be affected. This slide that Kulta has put up is pretty much what we are doing in the background. There's quite a few things that we need to take care of to protect your networks, and you'll get more communication from us about that. Some of the things is at zero cost. It's just managing what we have better, and making sure that things like privileges to certain devices are set to as minimal as they can, making sure that we've introduced multi-factor authentication across as many things as we can inside our network, and monitoring everything. All our 24/7 customers have full device monitoring. So we were able to pretty much get a read on devices straight away. And this is just a little bit more of an overview of zero trust architecture and in the way it works, whether it's internal or external. We were able to view and assess and then respond if we have to. One of the other things that we've started implementing, which is an opportunity for any business to be able to engage us, is we're putting together full data breach suites, by where we put together a data breach policy. We work with a team inside your organization. We put that together. We sit down, we run a test. So we do a complete data breach test, involve the people that need to be involved, because there are certain legalities that need to be followed. So again, if this is something that you require, I know we've put it in our newsletters, but it's probably something that everybody needs to have prepared for. That it's no longer when we're going to have it's no longer if we're going to have a data breach. It's just a matter of when, and what you want to be. The only thing you can be is prepared. So that is something else that we've been doing for our customers, making sure we've got the policies in place, who needs to be contacted, when, where, and how they get contacted. And as part of most cybersecurity insurance policies, we can put the documentation together to show that we've run these tests. Advanced threat detection. Kulta, you want to go over this, or you want me to go over it?
No, I'll quickly go over it. So that leads into the conversation in regards to, okay, there's all these challenges out there, but what's there to be able to contain these challenges or to prevent these issues from happening? So we've got a quick overview of what advanced threat detection looks like. It's actually part of zero trust architecture. There's having a SOC, which is basically security operations center, having a SIEM, information cybersecurity event management team, which is part of the SIEM, making sure we are analyzing user behavior. So basically, which is at the end of the day called managed detection and response, which is basically advanced risk management. So there's a number of activities and steps which are taken and done in the background when it comes to advanced threat detection. I'm just going to quickly talk about what the pyramid looks like, making sure you've got the right team, right technologies, right policies in place. In case there's a threat, we engage the right people, and there's continued learning from there, and making sure everything is proactively being monitored, proactively being managed. And that's where basically we have a full managed detection and response system. The other technology which we do recommend and presently use across a few customers is intrusion detection and prevention. Yes, we've got firewalls which will stop attacks from occurring, and they have some smarts behind it on figuring out what vulnerabilities there are. But intrusion detection and prevention is something which we use internally ourselves, have on a few customers, a fair few customers as well, where it figures out if there's a vulnerability anywhere before it hits it. So even before the Australian Signals Directorate comes and says to us that, hey, there's a vulnerability on, say, like last year, there were, or so far this year, there have been three vulnerabilities on the um, Fortinet FortiGate platform, let's say. So the ASD will tell us. However, we've already figured that out, and we've started to put in steps, contacting the customers. Hey, we're going to do a restore or a reboot. We're going to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to rebuild your firewall. So we do that all by knowing that, hey, there's these threats, and it's another layer which is required to ensure the business is able to avoid any critical outages or critical vulnerabilities. Now, let's talk about the newest technology, which is AI and what ChatGPT. Over here, I'm specifically done some research on ChatGPT. So we'll think about, we'll talk about ChatGPT. So ChatGPT itself is a platform which is algorithm-based learning platform, which collects data from the World Wide Web, and it will scan the web for information, and depending upon your question, will collate all that information, run it internally amongst number of other searches, and then spit out the information. And it is quite accurate, and um, the information which it presents to you can be quite beneficial. You also have to understand it is constantly learning. So people are uploading data to it, and then it is retaining that information, cleaning it out, and passing it on to you in the form you want. For example, if I um, ask ChatGPT, can you uh, tell me about cybersecurity and challenges in cybersecurity? It will go out there, find information, it will present that to me. Then I'll say, okay, put it in a PowerPoint presentation. It probably can't put it in a PowerPoint presentation deck. It will put it in slides, or it will create texts which can be easily copied into. So it will do that. However, if I create my own information and upload it, and I say, hey, here's my slide deck, can you clean it out? Or if I put that information in any other AI learning platform or an AI platform or a solution which is based on AI, it will retain that information. Hence, it is very important. And our tip is, if you're doing anything with ChatGPT or an AI platform, make sure your data is anonymous from a perspective that you take out any customer details, any privacy uh, details out of there. For example, if you want to run mathematical, you want to check your calculations on a specific transaction, let's say, and you put that information up there for AI, ChatGPT to work that out for you, it will work it out for you, but you can't put in customer details. So be mindful of that. So what AI can do is it can predict potential threats based on historical data. So there's cybersecurity organizations which are already using AI learning, and they are looking at all the threats out in the world, and it is saying, okay, we found this information, we're going to collate this, we're going to see what patches we can come up with, and we'll push that out. So they'll use something like ChatGPT to figure out what the threats are. So it's going to use the machine learning algorithms which are from there and use the patterns and put out a patch out there. So that's something which ChatGPT can be used for. User behavior analytics. It can basically monitor different users, what threats, what are people clicking on, what are the phishing campaigns going on, and it can provide that information. So yes, it is a double-edged sword, because you can do it for learning, or you can do it basically for creating as well. So you can create a challenge by saying, what are people clicking most on? And it will basically go out there and look for all the keywords which people have clicked on. And then you can create an email with that, or ChatGPT could create that email for you. Also, it can just spoke about how it can look at what phishing attacks have been common. So there's information over there which we have to be mindful of as well. Now, moving on to security, basically, yes, it can automate stuff, it can write data, it can write programs, which are both positive and negative. It can also help with hunting threats. You can write some detection rules and so on. Um, and then what ChatGPT can help different organizations, and not for normal businesses, is basically it can help with some security firms or some security center operation centers to figure out, okay, if there's a code they're going to execute, they can basically do some testing on the code. So that's some security they can. So penetration testing. It can have a security operations trying to track a cyber attack. So you can basically put in information about, hey, there's this vulnerability. Can you tell me what it is affecting? How can I control it, or what I should implement? So it's got that intelligence. It can do some vulnerability assessment, but there's a lot of false positives over here. So, and some security training where you can go in there and ask ChatGPT that, hey, can you give us some information about some common phishing examples, some common threats, what we should be looking at, and it can provide information which you can put in your newsletter and you can provide that to your employees. So there's stuff which ChatGPT can be used. Um, However, there's misinterpretation of information over there. There's output which is biased on the amount of clicks or where the information is coming from because it's doing a worldwide search. Confidentiality, I just advise you guys that, hey, there's privacy concerns, there's regulations, guidelines around privacy laws and what you can have there, and your customers' data you can't put up there. So you've got to make sure that you covering yourself from a confidentiality perspective. And then there's the over reliance on automation where people are losing the skills of doing the testing, developing, uh, the programming themselves and relying on AI. So that's my quick overview of what AI and ChatGPT can help, or how they can help with cybersecurity. I'm mindful of time. See, we don't have a lot of time left, so I quickly want to go over the regulations and guidelines. In specific, there are a number of privacy laws which affect every business. If you're a business which is transacting over $2 million, you're literally coming under this framework where you've got the Essential Eight, and there's different frameworks around there. You might have heard about the EU GDP laws. This is where a couple of years ago, businesses or websites didn't have to say that, hey, we're collecting your data. Your data is cookies, right? Cookies is how they collect your personal information, what you browse. Now everybody by law across the world have to say, hey, we're going to collect cookies. This is how we use them, etc. So that's basically something which has come from EU GDPR. There's different ISO levels, which is basically ensuring how your data moves, how your data is collected, what it is doing at rest, and how it is managed is being done. Then there's different acts in regards to Notifiable Data Breaches Act, the Privacy Act, and serious fines being associated with that. Now, what the Australian Cyber Security Centre, this is the organization which we're a partner of, who works along with the Australian Signals Directorate. And if you don't know about this Australian Signals Directorate, they are a spy agency. So it's basically critical organizations which then advise us in regards to what needs to be done. These are the organizations which are responsible for our privacy laws, for our regulation, and our penalties. And they're saying, hey, don't pay a ransom, right? Have the right policies. Here's a framework. If you don't have the framework, there will be different liabilities, and different amount of penalties which could affect you, which could rocket to 50 million, three times the value, blah, 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 30%. All this information is available to general public. So this is all out there. If you would like to know more about it, there's an email at the end of the presentation, which you can email and I'll have that information sent to you. So tougher penalties are being introduced, and the way we can um, uh, have some respite from the penalties is by having the right cybersecurity strategies, the strategies which are developed by the Australian Cybersecurity Centre. It's about cyber hygiene, and that's how the AES 8, Australian Essential 8, has been enacted. This is constantly being updated, but at Crash Technology, our team is ensuring that your business is AES 8 compliant. There are 4 levels of AES 8 compliance as per the maturity model, which it was introduced back in 2017. But there are 8 levels sorry, there are 4 levels of maturity, and there are 8 main areas of mitigating your risks. Now, those main areas are application whitelisting, which is basically ensuring that people have the right um, access to applications, and that if it is not to be utilized by a certain role, that it is restricted from that person. All applications are patched. This is something which we do proactively for all our customers who are on a service agreement, where we will ensure that there is patches being pushed out, and the users are being um, compliant. We've got making sure Office macro settings are being implemented. So this is where we can block certain internet applications from accessing different programs. Then there's making sure the right user has the right privilege. This is from a perspective of being able to deploy a new solution, new execute a new program, or deploy a new software. We want to make sure we have that. Then there's patching operating systems, which is your server operating systems, your Windows 11, the basic patches which are being pushed out for the main operating systems. Multi-factor authentication, we've literally pushed this out to all our customers on Office 365. If you've got any user in your organization who is not using MFA, please get them to get in touch with us, support@crashtechnology.com.au. We've reached out to literally everybody. There's probably a couple who we are waiting to hear from, but MFA on O365 is absolutely critical. And then any line of business application you're working with, any third-party software you're working with, you need to engage us, or you need to directly approach that organization on having MFA, multi-factor, two-factor authentication. We've got it for our Netflixes. I've got it for my social media. The banks have been pushing us for it. All government organizations, there's no reason why your line of business application shouldn't have that. Let's close that gate by putting 2MFA on it. And business continuity. We are experts with business continuity. Datto is a solution which we've been deploying for over 6 years. Probably over 100 customers who are using Datto. That's the best solution. And it gives you literally maturity level 3. So the 3 maturity levels are 0, where you've got nothing, level 1, level 2, level 3. We can't achieve level 3 in all these because that literally means you can't have access to the internet, etc. So some of the businesses will be level 1, level 2 on multiple things, but on with Datto, you are level 3 straight away on business continuity. So you prepared when it comes to having a vulnerability. So just another slide which talks about the AES8 in details. That's fine. I just explained that. Let's talk about the real life example. Now we look at natural disasters. This is the Brisbane River photo taken from a few years ago. Actually, we had a case where we had a customer, we still have the customer who has an office in Brisbane right next to the banks, and they weren't going to be affected by the floods, but the power company said, hey, we're going to turn the power off because of the issues, and you guys can't operate. Luckily they had the Datto, and they had a lot of billing to be done, probably a few $1 million worth of billing to be done. It was end of financial year or something, and they were able to operate because we got the Datto working. We gave the accounting staff access to the servers, and they were able to publish those invoices and so on. So real life applications. But this is not the disasters which we are facing, apart from all the natural disasters and change in climate and everything. The issues which we are facing is uh, data loss and theft from online applications, Microsoft 365, for example. Now, I know I'm going overboard. If you can stay with me, that will be great, but there will be the recording provided later. So if people haven't seen or heard about Kevin Mitnick, let me give you a quick introduction. Kevin Mitnick was the first black hat uh, uh, hacker, and he was one of the white hats later. So he ran a sophisticated scamming Um, sorry about that. We had a scamming. He had scams going on using cellular networks. He evaded the FBI for about 5 years. However, once he went through his time, he was way advanced in regards to creating viruses, and then he helped the FBI find uh, the culprits who were scamming using different viruses. So it's very interesting to hear his story. Now, just one moment, please. Now, what we want to talk about is this issue where hackers are using ransomware as a service. They're able to send out an email as Microsoft. Looks very legitimate. The only thing which stands out here is the way it is worded out. And if you click on that anti-spam pro, you will see that it is not a Microsoft address. However, it's important that as your employees and yourself as a user are getting exposed to a lot of emails coming in, make sure you've got the right domain in there. You're doing some checks yourself. Once the person clicks on this, it still looks like it is Microsoft, but that zero in the Microsoft just is the point where a user can pick up, hey, this is not Microsoft service, and why is it asking me to get access to my data from anywhere, my contacts, calendars. If Microsoft should have that information, why is it trying to do so? That's something where your team will take a screenshot, email it to support at Crash Technology, and tell us, hey, there's an issue over here. So what has happened is the person has clicked on it, it's gone in there, encrypted all the emails. From the encryption, it then says, hey, there's another email. I'll let you get access to all your emails. You can see these are all encrypted. You want access back to your, at this stage, if we don't have backup, we can't get you access to your Office 365.
Hey,
So
Kultar, can I just jump in on that
yeah,
point?
sure.
Um, so a real big misconception is that if you run Office 365 or any Microsoft product, that you have a backup. That is incorrect. Microsoft do not have backup on Office 365. So if you do not purchase a third party backup solution, which we provide, um, you have no backup. So if you get infected with ransomware across your Office 365 mailbox, that information is gone. So just because we sent out an email not too long ago to tell everybody that we're going to switch on Office 365, and I think it was like $6 a month per user, Coulter, or
Yep,
somewhere around there.
yep.
Um, and we had quite a few customers coming saying, "Oh, but it's Office 365, it's backed up." No, it's not backed up. There is no backup for it. So that's something just to be aware of.
Thank you, Dean. So literally, once they get into your Office 365, um, depending upon your licensing, you might have 7 days, maybe 30 days of retention, but that's for something you've deleted, not for your mailbox. So what Microsoft says is it's uh, it's up to the business or the user to ensure that you have the data backed up and you're using some sort of a third party app. So it's a shared responsibility model, just as Dean said. Microsoft says we'll take care of the hardware that runs Office 365. We make sure that Office 365 software runs, and we know majority of, like, 99% of the time it is running. There might be a few issues every here now and then, but that's what Microsoft is responsible for. What they're not responsible for human error, for any malicious insiders. So your team, for example, if somebody decides to leave and delete all the emails, that information will be lost. External hackers, viruses, like such. So we've got probably 60% of the existing customers, maybe 70% of the existing customers who are on Office 365 using data SaaS protection, which is the $6 per month where we back up your Exchange, the emails, your Teams, any SharePoint data, and any OneDrive data. So it's full month of retention for $6 a month, and this is a no-brainer. Um, you've received emails. If you don't have Office 365, you're going to turn it on, unless you've already told us not to. So that's pretty much what we wanted to talk from a perspective of the threats out there. How do we contain the threats? The role of AI in cybersecurity, and the phishing email example, which is through a ransomware, ransom as a cloud service. Uh, let's talk about, let's recap and talk about what are the 5 steps for businesses to safeguard their data. Firewalls, number one thing is the protection through firewall. Spam filter, absolutely, we need to cut the crap out of the emails which is coming. Right, we do need to. So we need spam filters. There's a lot of inbuilt tools within Office 365, which we try and utilize. And then there's a couple external solutions which we use. Then there's ensuring both your server and your endpoint have the right antivirus. And for us, that is Sophos advanced with advanced detection. That works like a dream. It informs us, we get in there, we contain the data. I myself have had to rely on it twice, where being in sales, I've clicked on something, getting excited, hey, here's an order. I clicked on it and I figured out it's then popped up with Sophos saying, hey, there's a virus. Luckily, Sophos has helped that from becoming a bigger problem. It's a good story and a great learning experience for me. So business continuity, having the Office 365 backup, these are all the steps, and ensuring that your staff is getting trained, they're aware of the cybersecurity challenges. Now, staying protected is making sure that from a people's and procedures perspective, you've got the right information. You share that information with your colleagues and your team. As Dean has mentioned, we need to be prepared for these challenges. And it's just not ongoing employee training, but it is basically making sure you've got the right password rules, making sure that when employees walk away from the desk, they are locking the computer. You do that by pressing Windows sign and L. That's a shortcut. Windows L will lock your computer, or you can go Control Alt Delete. Make sure it's not open to anyone when you walked away, ensuring that you've done an assessment with in regards to if there is a cybersecurity incident, how does your team respond? And that's something which we've worked with a number of customers. We can easily work with replicate that for yourselves. Um, then ensure if you're clicking on anything, you're doing your due diligence, checking where the email has arrived from, if it is coming from a reputable domain. If you've gone online, it's got the lock symbol and HTTPS, which is secure. So those basic things, those things are basic practices. We will ensure you've got the right antivirus. We'll ensure you've got the right backups. If you have mobile devices in the business, you need to have a mobile device management solution or the right policy to ensure that if that device gets compromised, information isn't locked out. Um, Literally, next is us doing some testing for you guys. So more than happy to make that happen. With that, here's the email address for you guys to communicate with us. If you've got any IT security challenges, any IT security questions, you can email itsecurity@crashtechnology.com.au, and that will basically uh, get us in touch about security. With that, I would like to open the uh, floor for any questions. Thank you.
Guys, just please feel free if you have any questions, just pop them into the chat and we'll answer them.
Guys, you can just post your question in the chat box.
Thanks, Amir.
Okay, guys, thank you so much for your time. So you've got our email addresses. We just a phone call away. With that, we'll conclude today's presentation. This recording will be made available shortly. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.